Well, guys, I am keeping everyone on a mute, and during that particular thing, you will not able to ask any questions, and we will give the time for question and answer after the session, basically. Yeah, Mr. B. Patak, unmute yourself and you can start with the demo. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Hemu sir. All right. So welcome everyone. Good evening. A warm welcome to all of you. Today we are going to, this is a kind of a demo session for the checkpoint firewall, and we'll be having some glimpse of our course, which we'll be discussing in very detail. Okay. And it's a integrated batch CCSA and CCSE. So we'll be having discussion on checkpoint from very basics to the advanced level. Okay, you'll feel that slowly and gradually you'll be reaching to the top level of the checkpoint. So very warm welcome again. I hope you guys can see my screen, right? Or let me just check. Okay, it's shared. Okay, so this is the introduction class, and this is we have a box, checkpoint box with us, and this is a 5200 device basically, and you will see some of the ports here, the LAN ports here. Okay, some of the fiber ports here, two USB port, one console port, and one management port. And also you can see some of the LEDs are there. Also you can see a converter, although this is a new box, so that is why you can see a converter here. If you like have a console converter, you can plug on here, right? So welcome once again. Let me just go take you guys to the course content, where like I'll be discussing what sort of things you'll will be covering in this particular course. Okay, so this is the course content where we'll start from basic, like what is the checkpoint firewall, what is the history of it, what is the architecture, packet flow of checkpoint. Okay, and then we'll slowly gradually move toward the lab, because you know that lab is very important part of any training. So we'll start from the basic, and then we move slowly and gradually. And the second step will be creation of lab, whether on the VM or the cloud. Okay. So as Hemu sir has mentioned that if you want to create your lab on your laptops, you need to have the VM. And if you do not want to, like if your computer or maybe laptop is that not that much capable, because for this lab you need at least 8 GB of RAM in your laptop, so you'll be able to perform all the basic uh, labs of this checkpoint firewall. But if you do not have that much of RAM, you can build the your lab on the cloud, and we can help you to build that. What you need for that, you need a credit card with a limit of approximately 75,000, although you'll not be charged much from there. Maybe I'm not sure, maybe some minimal amount you'll be charged for that, but you can build your lab on the cloud also. And if you'll be able to build, like after the building of lab, will perform the deployment. Like we have certain modes of deployment in checkpoint, what sort of deployment you can perform, like standalone deployment and the distributed deployment. We'll discuss in our lectures what is the difference, what is the main feature set different, what sort of feature set distributed deployment provide, what sort of feature set standalone provide, what is the recommendation from the checkpoint, and so on. Okay, after the deployment we'll have discussion and the deep understanding of the checkpoint components, like smart console, smart log, smart monitor, and the demo mode, smart update, and the licensing and the bleeds also of the checkpoint firewall, right? So if I talk about the checkpoint manageability, whatever operation you will be performing on the checkpoint, you need to have smart console for that, right? whether you want to create policy, whether you want to create NAT policy, object creation, or whatever you want to perform, like whatever task you receive in your daily component, you will be performing same task through the smart console. Okay. Smart logs are basically for the logging, as the name suggests. Smart monitor is to monitor the devices. Demo mode is, to get the understanding of the real environment. I'll explain it a bit later. Smart update is to update the devices licensing and the blades to enable the licenses, or you can say the features we have in checkpoint. For an example, if you want to enable URL filtering, for an example, if you want to enable content filtering, right? IPsec. So you need to enable a blade for that, right? And then concept of policies and the NAT, there are certain types of policies you create on the checkpoint. They have named it in certain way that you'll be creating them on the firewall. The NATing, hide NAT, static NAT, U-turn NAT, all things we'll be discussing in detail in our course and the lab. Then we have very important topic, which is clustering means the failover, or you can say, high availability, you can say in technical terms. So we have certain modes like high availability, cluster access, load sharing, multicast, unicast. These are the modes through which you can deploy your firewall in like multiple firewall in one cluster, and you can achieve the redundancy, right? So whenever you discuss, like you talk about redundancy, these methods come into the picture in terms of checkpoint firewall, right? We'll have a detailed discussion about the checkpoint firewall monitor blade, where we'll discuss the SAM database rule, what is SAM rule, and how to prevent DDoS whenever, like, let's suppose there is some, unwanted login authorization. You have a DMZ connected with your firewall, right? And for an example, let me take you to the one node, and I'll explain you over there. So, okay. Let's suppose this is your firewall, right? Let's suppose this is your firewall, okay? This is your LAN, this is your WAN, this is your DMZ, right? In DMZ, you have a server placed over here, right? And on the WAN, you have an internet connectivity, right? And let's suppose a server team person has came to you and they are mentioning that from the internet, they are getting multiple login attempt on this particular server, and you need to immediately block that connection. So there are two methods on the checkpoint you can block it. The first method is through the policy, right? You go to the policy and you create a policy. And the another and the most useful method is creating SAM rule. Okay, we'll discuss about this SAM rule in a while. What you will be doing through the SAM rule, you will be creating similar rule, the rule which you have created in the policy section. You can create a similar rule in the SAM rule or SAM database. And through this rule, this login attempt, which is happening continuously, that login attempts will be blocked on the interface level here itself. It will not, like firewall will not allow that packet to enter to the interface. In fact, right, whatever the connections are coming, it will be blocked on this interface level. Through this, will be saving our firewall CPU utilization, and the resources will be saving a lot of things by this SAM rule, right? So this is how we can work in terms of DOS attack or DDoS attack. We can act multiple ways in our checkpoint, right? Then some basic troubleshooting commands, which I think that every person in the industry who is working on the checkpoint should know. There are multiple commands. Like, although when we talk about the next generation firewall, it is being said that their GUIs are far better. and they all are GUI based firewalls. But it's my recommendation that okay, operational work you can do with the GUI, but when it comes to troubleshooting, you should have the understanding of the troubleshooting commands. You should know that if I'll be running this command, what sort of output you will be having in from the firewall, and in that particular output, what sort of information you should look forward. Okay. And if I talk about after that, we'll be having detailed discussion about the backup, what is snapshot, import, export, revision control, in which scenario you should prefer snapshot, what is the difference between them. Okay, we'll be having approximately 2.5 hours of discussion on this one, and we'll be taking real-time backup, we'll be installing real-time backup, and we'll be importing, exporting real-time backup in our lab, right? Checkpoint firewall client edition, let's say your username, like admin username, is not working on your GUI. In that case, what sort of options you do have? Like, right, like you have created multiple administrator, and on top of that you have an admin, right, admin credential. So apart from that, multiple administrators you have created, your admin account is blocked. So in that case, what sort of options you'll have, right? In that case, we'll be having a very good and deep discussion on this particular point. And then if you talk about, I'll discuss checkpoint policy installation process. Like, see, okay, we do have a firewall in our network. We do have a smart console, software through which we'll be deploying the policy. But what is happening behind the picture? The moment you'll be clicking on install policy, what processes will be the firewall performing so that that install policy will be happening on the gateway, right? So this discussion will be happening, and this process happens on the basis of daemons, which we'll be discussing in throughout this course. There are multiple daemons because you know that the checkpoint is based on Red Hat Linux, and Linux works on daemons. So we have multiple daemons inside the checkpoint. For example, CPD is a daemon. FWD, right? It's also a daemon. For the VPN, we have a VPND, right? For the secure shell, we have a FW secure shell daemon in checkpoint. So there are multiple daemons, right? And I'll also be explaining that how you will be working with those daemons, in what cases, which sort of daemon you should look for, right? If let's suppose let's suppose logging is not coming on your firewall, so there is a daemon behind that logging. So you need to check specific that daemon, if that daemon is working or not. If not working, that means that's a problem where your logging is not coming, right? Then, like, if you talk about the security field, most important topic, site to site VPN configuration, and I'll be discussing this in very detail, in the sense what sort of phases we have, phase 1, phase 2, different type of messages gets exchanged between these phases, and what type of how many type of VPN we can create, like SSL VPN, IPsec VPN, and the remote access VPN. We'll be discussing those things in our lab as well as the theory part, right? And then there is some kernel level discussion will be happening, because this course is CCSA plus CCSE. So when we talk about CCSE, it's a expert level certification, and if you are CCSE trained or certified, it is expected from you that you have a good understanding of the kernel of the firewall. So we'll be having different type of discussion on the kernel. For example, we do have some acceleration methods on the firewall, checkpoint firewall, which is like secure accel, security acceleration, cluster acceleration, core acceleration. So through these methods, we'll discuss that through which method what sort of operation you'll be performing, right? For an example, through the secure accel, you will be enhancing your security operations, right? If the packet is being inspected, it will be inspected more deeply now. Through the cluster accel, you can add up to 8 gateway in your cluster, right? Like till now you must have heard that you can create the high availability or cluster of failover with 2 gateways, right? Here in checkpoint we are not talking about 2 gateways, we are talking about 7 8 gateways, 6 gateways. So in cluster excel, when you enable the cluster excel, you can add up to 8 gateway in that cluster, right? Core excel, if I talk about, see, this is the brief I am giving, the detailed discussion we'll be having in classes. So in core excel we'll be having the core, like the packet processing at the core level, it will be having more intensively, right, more faster. It can increase your packet processing into 2 times, right? And how these things will be happening on the core level, and on which kernel these things you will be performing, and at which section of the firewall these acceleration will make a difference, or you can uh, make changes, we'll discuss in our lab, right? And if you talk about next generation features, we have HTTP as inspection. We'll see in our this course. URL filtering. We'll see content awareness. Right? Some people might get confused. What is URL filtering and content awareness? Content awareness is means you are applying the security, like nobody from my organization can share the Excel file. That is content. How your firewall will be understanding that this is Excel file, so we'll be telling the firewall through the content awareness blade, right? And last but not the least, the LDAP integration, lightweight active directory protocol, right? The AD integration with your firewall. So right now, like if you talk about policy creation, there are 2 type of policy creation. One is you are creating the policy on the basis of source IP, destination IP, source network, and the destination network, right? But through the LDAP integration, you can create on the basis of groups, like from my marketing group, the internet, Facebook is allowed. Okay, so there is no need to define the source address or destination address. You can enter the AD group, you can call the AD group in your rule database, right? So this was the deep detailed course content, what sort of topics we'll be discussing, and this is all topic which we'll be discussing. Apart from this, we'll be having multiple discussion. If you talk about what is static R, right, how to enable it, right, this sort of like how the DNS query works. So these things will come in between the topics, and timely we'll be discussing all the information one by one, right? So this was the course content. Let me get you back to the PPT. Uh, so one very important question comes in everyone's mind, like why we should learn checkpoint, and like who should prefer checkpoint. So let me tell you guys, checkpoint is not a very small technology. This is the Gartner report of 2021, right? It was published in 2021, and you can see in the leaders section we have only 3 companies who is in the leaders section. The first one is Palo Alto, then Fortinet, then Checkpoint. And this is not today's story. They are there from, I believe, 2014 or 15. They are there. Or maybe you can say not 14, 15, then you can say from 2016. I'm really sure that from 16 they are there in this leader section, right? They are not there from last like from past 1 year or 6 months. They are there from years actually. And this report is being published on the basis of their visions, their challenges, their support type, and multiple things, on the basis of multiple things they are providing in the market, right? So if you are if you are a person who want to start your career in network security, let me tell you one thing: checkpoint is the best option from where you can start your network security career. And if you want, if you're already in the network security, if you're working on Fortinet, maybe Palo Alto, or maybe any other firewall, Forcepoint, Juniper, or any other firewall, and you want to become a multi-vendor person, then this is the one of the technology you should look forward, because it's already in the leaders section, right? After which, because this is a demo session and we have very limited time over here, so I'll not take very long time to come to our topic. And today's topic will be discussing our SAM database in very detail. Okay, what is SAM database and what sort of information it provides. So let me just quickly start. Give me just one moment. Okay. So let us go to our see. I can explain this thing over here on the PPT also, but let me move to the OneNote. I hope this OneNote is visible to everyone. Okay, let me move there and let me explain this packet flow of checkpoint over here. Right. So for an example, let's suppose you have a firewall. Okay, this is your firewall. Okay, this is your LAN. This is your WAN. This is your LAN, this is your WAN, or you can say this is inside and this is outside, right? Okay, so let's suppose when the packet gets initiated from the PC from maybe inside or maybe the PC which is outside, and this PC like this packet travels out like to the whole network and it gets hitted on this interface, right? Now the packet maybe from this PC or maybe this from this PC gets initiated and came on this particular interface, maybe inside or outside, right? I'm telling you the general packet flow of the checkpoint. So the first thing which will be evaluated, that is called SAM database. Okay, see guys, these are very like packet flow of checkpoint is very lengthy topic, but I have very limited time, so I'll be giving you brief introduction of all the sections. Okay, not the deep, but the deeper thing we'll be discussing in our classes, right? The first thing will be checked is SAM database. Now, what is SAM database? SAM stands for suspicious activity monitoring, right? Suspicious activity monitoring and database. So in this database, you can create a rule that from any specific source, okay, and destination to any specific destination, so on the basis of service, and action will be denied. So what you can do, you can create a rule and you can mention whether from source or maybe to the destination or maybe from the source or the destination on a particular service, the action will be denied. Now, where the SAM database will be used, I have just given one example to you all. Let's suppose I am getting multiple heads on a particular server which is placed in our DMZ, right? And the multiple hits are coming from an IP address 10.1.1.1, and my server's IP address is 192.168.1.100, right? Let's suppose I am like my server person has came to me and he mentioned that they are getting multiple login failure on this particular server, and the source is only one, which is this machine, and this machine does not belongs to our network. That means this is coming from outside. So what I can do, I can go to the SAM database of the firewall. I can create a policy that from 10.1.1.1 destination any, source any, action will be blocked. I can create this rule, and the firewall will block this traffic on this particular interface itself. So through this, you have what you have done, you have blocked the traffic. Also, you have saved the resources of the firewall in accessing this particular packet. So it doesn't matter whether there is 100 packets coming or 1,000 packets coming or a million of packets coming in 1 second. Every packet from this source will be dropped at the interface level. Okay, so this is the beauty of SAM database. So that is the reason whenever the packet comes on the firewall checks the same database initially. The first thing will be checked, which is SAM database. Okay, and the next thing will be anti-spoofing. Okay, if you want, like whenever you go, like after learning this checkpoint course, whenever you go for an interview for level 1 or level 1+1 engineer in security, these two questions will be asked to you. 100% chances are there. 100% chances. People ask this question. I personally ask these questions because these are basics of checkpoint, right? Now let's talk about the anti-spoofing. What is anti-spoofing? Anti-spoofing is the terminology which checks the authenticity of the source. Let's suppose the packet which is coming on this interface, this anti-spoofing method will check that this packet is coming from this particular source, and is this particular source is legitimate or not, whether this source traffic should come on this particular interface or not. If the answer is yes, it will be passed. If the answer is no, it will be dropped, right? For an example, let's suppose we have a machine over here, and this interface is having IP of 192.168 2.1/24. So whatever traffic will hit on this interface, it should be from 2.1, right? But let's suppose one traffic has landed on this interface, and the IP source IP is 192.168 1.1. So this is not legitimate as per the configuration of this firewall, right? Because the network is totally changed. We have 2.1/24, and the traffic is coming from 1.1/24. So this is not legitimate source, right? The firewall will not allow it, right? So after the anti-spoofing, the third thing will be checked as a session. Okay, session lookup. Like whatever traffic which is coming on the firewall, is there any existing setup which is already created on the firewall? If yes, the traffic will be passed from that particular session. Otherwise, it will be passed to the policy check, and after the policy check, a new session will be initiated. And this to do this session lookup thing, the firewall maintain a state table, or you can say a session table, which we'll be discussing in the class, that what sort of state table they maintain. And also, like, let me tell you the brief. In this state table, source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, right? These information and the direction, right? And the job ID. These information will be maintained in the session table, and in the session table lookup, these information will be checked. And in fact, I will demonstrate you that in a real session entry, what sort of information will be there, and we'll discuss each and every information one by one. Okay. So there will be two things in this session lookup. One, like session entry is there, either yes, entry is there, or no, entry is not there. So if the entry is there, the traffic will pass from through that entry. If the entry is not there, then the fourth step will be policy lookup, right? Like, do we have a valid policy on the firewall for this source? to this destination on this particular service. If the policy is there, there will again be two options here. Either the policy is there, yes, policy is there, or no, policy is not there. If the policy is not there, the firewall will discard the packet on this server itself. Policy should be there on the firewall. If policy is there, it will be passed through that particular policy. After the policy, the fifth thing will be the destination NAT, right? Okay, we have a policy on the firewall from this source to this destination. The traffic on the particular port, it's allowed. Do we have any destination NAT policy also? Okay, like let's suppose I have a policy of 192.168.1.100 and it is going on 199.199.199.1. So the firewall will check that, okay, this is my source, this is my destination. Do I have any policy for this destination? If yes, the NAT policy will be applied. If no, it will be passed to the next particular step. And the next particular step is route lookup. What it is? It is a route lookup. Now, what is the route lookup? See, firewall will check, okay, I have one source, I have one destination. Maybe this destination will be changed after the destination NAT on this step, right? Let's suppose this traffic was for internal and this traffic has been changed to 192.168.2.100. This is my internal server's IP, right? So let's suppose at the destination NAT section, this IP has been converted to this private IP. Okay, so whether this conversion happens or not, the route lookup will be happening if the conversion has been done. If not, then it will check for the original destination, that through which interface I should forward this traffic for this particular destination, right? The firewall will check, okay, I have this destination, destination NAT is being performed, whether yes or not, it's not confirmed. If the policy will be there, it will perform the destination NAT, but the route lookup will be happening if the conversion has been done, so on this converted IP, otherwise on the original IP, and it will check through which interface it has to forward the traffic. Let's suppose this traffic has came from here inside and it has landed on this interface. So what it will do, it will check whether I have to forward this traffic on the outside or the DMZ, or where I have to actually forward. So route lookup will be happening, and the most important thing, routing will not be happening on that particular step. Only the lookup will be happening. Okay, routing is not happening, lookup is happening. All right, and after the lookup, after the route lookup, the next step will be like step number this was the step number 6, and the 7th will be source NAT, because now the traffic will be leaving the firewall in next 2-3 steps. So source NAT will be performing, and the firewall will check, do I have any policy where this particular source, the source was 192.168.1.1, let's suppose. So do I have any policy which says before moving further, I have to change this source IP address? If the policy is there, yes, policy is there, this source will be converted. Otherwise, if the answer is no, this will not be converted. Okay, then the 8th one will be layer 7 inspection. See, you all know that this checkpoint firewall is the next generation firewall, right? Next generation firewall means it have multiple feature set like HTTPS inspection, content awareness, URL filtering, right? Antivirus, anti-bot, right? These all feature set are there. So these all checks will be happening at which layer? At layer 7. On this 8th step, these all application will be checked one by one, and if until or unless these all application which is called for this particular traffic, until or unless these all application will pass that traffic, this traffic will not move further. Okay, if let's suppose https has discarded this packet, okay, they observe that there is something wrong with that particular packet, so it will be discarding this packet, and this packet will be stopped here, right? And if like after this, see, this is brief I'm giving, will be having a very deep discussion on these all steps in our class. So like after this layer 7 inspection, we'll be having 9th step, which is VPN. So now this firewall, the checkpoint firewall, will check whether I have to forward this traffic on any VPN which is created within the firewall. Maybe there is one another firewall here. Let's suppose this firewall belongs to Mumbai, right? Maybe I do have a firewall with this is my like hub firewall, right? Mumbai is my hub. Let's suppose I do have a firewall in Delhi, right? And Delhi is my spoke location, and I do have a VPN tunnel over here. So this firewall will check at the 9th step, do I need to forward this traffic to over the VPN or not? Right? This check will be happening over, and after this check, the 3rd step will come into the picture. This VPN forwarding and the route lookup statement will be checked, and on the basis of these two statements, the routing, the actual forwarding of the packet will be happening on the 10th step. This is the overall packet flow of the checkpoint. This is brief introduction of the checkpoint packet flow, but this is how the checkpoint flow will be happening. Okay. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is the packet flow. Maybe some of you are freshers, or maybe working in some another domain, maybe monitoring or some other domains of the network. You do not know like how the firewall works. So let me give you the brief of how the firewall works also. So what happens, we have certain things under like inside the firewall. For an example, let's suppose this is my checkpoint firewall, right? This is my checkpoint firewall box. Let's suppose 4600. It's an older model, but let's suppose 4600, or maybe you can say 5200 it is, right? So there will be the first layer, right? The first layer will be the hardware layer on this particular checkpoint. Okay, this is what my hardware layer. Hardware layer. And what sort of things will be having on the hardware layer? Your NIC cards, right? NIC card, your ports will be here, right? For an example, just imagine I have taken two ports, port number 1 and the port number 2. Okay, this is my inside port and this is my outside port, right? This is the two ports I have taken. And this is, see guys, I'm giving you hardware picture of the checkpoint firewall. So the first thing, we have the hardware layer, okay, layer. After this, we'll be having firewall layer. What? Firewall layer here. This is called firewall layer. Okay, some people say firewall one layer, some people call it kernel layer. Okay, whatever you want to say, you can call it. There will be some bifurcation. There will be some inbound operations and there will be some outbound operation. Okay, inbound operation and outbound operation. Okay. So at the kernel level, you'll be having some sort of operations. What sort of operation? I'll be showing you one KB article prepared by Checkpoint, like provided by Checkpoint, and I'll be demonstrating you that article over here, right? After this, you will be having what? User mode, or you can say user layer. So at this layer, you'll be having multiple daemons which will be working under this layer. For an example, one daemon you'll be having called CPD. What? CPD, checkpoint daemon. One daemon is there which is called here, which is called FWD daemon. Okay, FWD. One is I just like I have mentioned right earlier, like VPN-D daemon, right? The VPN-D daemon also will be having in this user mode. VPN-D daemon. Okay. Another one is FWSSD. I have told you, like firewall secure shell, right? That daemon also will be having here. FWSSD. So there will be multiple daemons, but these daemons are very important. That is why I have highlighted. We'll discuss many more daemons in our class, but these are the basic daemons which will be there on the user layer. Okay, and this user mode will be for security gateway. So what will be happening? Whenever the firewall traffic will be coming here, it will be entering through the interface. Which interface? Inside interface. And whatever kernel level operations are there, all the operations will be performed on the inbound. And then from the kernel, the FWD daemon, this daemon will be taking the handover from here kernel modes to the user mode, and then further user mode checks will be performed. And after this traffic will go where? Again, the user mode of security gateway. Sorry, not security gateway, security management server, SMS. Right? So we have 3-tier architecture in our checkpoint. One is smart console, which will be connected to smart domain manager, SMS manager. This one is the SMS, right? And this SMS will be managing our gateway. These are my multiple gateway. So this security gateway user mode belongs to a security gateway, and this SMS user mode belongs to this SMS server. Now, why this SMS server came into the picture? Because we'll be having certain daemons on this user mode, SMS user mode also. Why? Because we'll be managing these gateways through the SMS. For an example, for the logging, FWM is the process, like FWM daemon is the process who is responsible for the logging. So that process will be here on this SMS server user mode. Okay, FWM. So this, like after performing all the policy checks and the net check, one copy will be forwarding here, and then it will be traveling like this and will be coming to outbound operations of the kernel. And after all the operations and the checks, it will be passed through the outside interface and it will be passed from the firewall. Similarly, when the traffic will be coming from outside, it will be going like this and it will be coming to the inside, or maybe DMG if we have a DMG interface over here. So this was the brief and very rough diagram I have told you. Let me give you one, detailed packet flow of the checkpoint, because it's a very big diagram. I cannot include that diagram in our PPT, but let me give you this checkpoint article and it will help you. Can you see this diagram, right? So whatever operation you are performing here, security access is happening here, right? Whatever information like operation you are performing here, like IPS inspection, HTTPS inspection, right? Classifier, whatever classifier is happening here, right? Whatever decision is being made on the basis of IPS, prevent, detect, or inactive, right? All these operations will be happening where? At the kernel mode here, on this mode, out outbound operation of the kernel mode, or maybe the inside operations of the kernel mode, right? Not an issue. If you have like you are not feeling very comfortable with this diagram, definitely will go through this diagram one by one. This is the interface where the traffic will be entering to our firewall, and then it will going for decryption, yes or no. If yes, it will be going for decryption policy. No, then it will be coming for the QS, and so on. This is a very big diagram, it will take some time, so I just given a brief introduction of the packet flow, right? We have three modes basically in the processing: the slow path, F2F, medium streaming path, where you'll be having content inspection only. Then the fast path, where you'll be having deep inspection of such as secure access features are there, like cryptography, tunnel, link selection, and so on. These things will be performed, and then the out interface will be coming, again the QS and the encrypt. So whatever operation you have performed at the like inside interface, like description and the QS, the same operation you will be performing again, like earlier you have done decryption, right? Here you have done decryption, now you'll be doing the encryption before forwarding from the outside interface, right? So this was the brief of the packet flow of the checkpoint, and this was the things we have discussed earlier, like this packet flow. This is the brief packet flow, or you can say a common packet flow which checkpoint provides. And if I talk about this particular article, this is deep inspection of the checkpoint, how the deep inspection happen, what sort of information being taken care, or maybe inspection happens on what sort of information we'll discuss on this particular diagram. And we have detailed information about these all components, right? Like for an example, we have CMI, context management infrastructure. What is this? What is the working of this CMI, right? We have CMI loader. What is the working of the CMI loader? Why we are using it, right? So these things will be discussing in our class. So I think I have given a brief of the checkpoint to all of you. This is our checkpoint packet flow in our PPT. So now I think, Hemu sir, we are good for
Yeah,
that questions.
yeah, we are good now to take the question. So let me just stop the recording.